Songwriters Hall of Fame inductee Markjames, best known for writing hits for greats like Elvis Presley, Willie Nelson, B.J. Thomas, and a long list of other top artists, has died. Reports indicate that James died at his home in Nashville, Tennessee on June 8 at the age of 83. Born Francis Rodney Zambon in Houston, Texas on November 29, 1940 to Italian-American parents, James took up the violin in his youth before switching to guitar. He launched his music career in Houston, playing the club scene before beginning to record his own songs. He released a string of minor local singles before interrupting his musical career to serve in Vietnam. And after he returned from the war, he relocated to Memphis at the urging of his childhood friend B.J. Thomas, signing a contract to write songs for producer Chips Moman. Moman produced Thomas recordings of The Eyes of a New York Woman, giving James his first hit in 1968. Thomas followed with two more James songs, Hooked on a Feeling and It's Only Love, in 1969. James continued to record his own songs as he grew his songwriting career, including a recording of Suspicious Minds in 1968. Despite the record label and promoters calling the song a smash, it failed to enter the charts. A few weeks later, the studio that James was working at was booked out for 2 weeks for Elvis, who was coming in to record 40-plus songs. However, when he read the lyrics and heard the melody of the track, Elvis immediately learned both and by the end of the week was singing it like his own. Elvis redid the now famous hit in 1969, which gave the iconic rock and country singer a #1 hit. The song has an interesting backstory about James and his childhood sweetheart. James was married but still had feelings for the woman who was also married. "It was a confusing time for me," he later told reporters. "I felt as though all three of us were all caught in this trap that we couldn't walk out of." Although the title of the song has often been misinterpreted to mean that the respective lovers' partners had suspicion that they were being cheated on, a closer look at the lyrics shows just how much of emotional turmoil the writer was in with his inability to truly let go of a childhood love that meant so much to him. Reports have also suggested that the reason Elvis fell so head over heels with the song was how the lyrics spoke to his own heart. In 1972, James signed a long-term contract with Screen Gems Columbia Music. Only a year later, in 1973, James' song Sunday Sunrise was recorded by American country singer Brenda Lee. Her version was a huge hit, becoming a top 10 single on multiple charts in the U.S. in 1975. Canadian musician Anne Murray covered Sunday Sunrise. Elvis continued to record James' songs Raised on Rock, It's Only Love, and Movie Blue, the title track to Presley's last studio album. But James' greatest success came with Always on My Mind, a collaboration with Johnny Christopher and Wayne Carson, and issued as a B-side by Presley in 1972. In 1973, Blood, Sweat, and Tears released Markjames' Roller Coaster as a single from their album No Sweat. The song was also recorded by David Cassidy the same year for the last Partridge Family album Bulletin Board, which also contained two other Markjames songs, Where Do We Go From Here and Alone Too Long, which he wrote with Cynthia Weil. James continued to score a long list of hits across genres over the 70s and 80s. His career, though, was put on hold when he enlisted in the Army during the Vietnam War. Mac Davis had a hit with One Hell of a Woman in 1974. In 1974, Swedish group Blue Swede recorded a pop version of Hooked on a Feeling and scored a U.S. #1. Waylon Jennings and Jesse Coulter scored a country hit with Suspicious Minds in 1976. Presley scored his final #1 hit with Moody Blue in 1977. Willie Nelson scored a multi-genre hit with Always on My Mind in 1982, winning 2 Grammy Awards and a CMA Award for Song of the Year. Dwight Yoakam, Roger Whittaker, Eddie Arnold, Floyd Kramer, Charlie McCoy, Ronnie Milsap, and many more also recorded James' songs. The Markjames Trio released the album She's Gone Away in 1978 on Crazy Cajun Records with fellow band members Joey Longoria and Bobby Winder. The United Kingdom's Pet Shop Boys released a successfully charting version of Always on My Mind in 1987, which reached #1 in the UK and #4 in the US. Fine Young Cannibals, Jay-Z, Dwight Yoakam, and Bill Withers are among more recent artists who have recorded James' songs, paying testament to his versatility as a songwriter. James wrote more than 300 songs during his 7-decade career. One of the things he will be particularly remembered for was his ability to pen lyrics that truly spoke to the hearts of his listeners and were often based on personal relationships. For instance, the lyrics of Always on My Mind have been referred to as a song written for every man. Written as one long apology, James is said to have described it sort of like all guys who screw up and would love nothing better than to pick up the phone and call their wives and say, "Listen, honey, I could have done better, but I want you to know that you were always on my mind." The Elvis Presley version particularly made sense, and the timing could not be more perfect since he himself was going through a tumultuous time in his own marriage. James studied film scoring at UCLA and the American Film Institute and began creating music for films later in his career. His songs have appeared in films including Reservoir Dogs and Guardians of the Galaxy, as well as on soundtracks for Kramer vs. Kramer, Practical Magic, and more. The version of Hooked on a Feeling in Guardians of the Galaxy gave the song a new lease of life, as it was embraced by the new generation as a sort of anthem for the Marvel Universe lovers. The Songwriters Hall of Fame in New York inducted James in 2014, and he was also a member of the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame and Texas Songwriters Hall of Fame. BMI the named James one of the top songwriters of the 20th century in 2000 alongside Elton John, Paul McCartney, and more. The Performing Rights Organization also recognized James' stellar career with multiple millionaire awards in 2022 that includes 9 million airplays of Suspicious Minds, 9 million airplays of Hooked on a Feeling, 7 million airplays of Always on My Mind, 1 million airplays of Moody Blue, and 1 million airplays of The Eyes of a New York Woman. Collectively, those 27 million airplays, a number that has only grown since 2022, adds up to 162 years of continuous back-to-back play of his music. James' cause of death has not been released publicly. In a statement, his family said, "His larger-than-life personality filled any room he was in, and his smile lit it up. He was a captivating storyteller who had the sweetest smile, the most infectious laugh, and a twinkle in his eye that never dimmed." Funeral plans for Markjames are not publicly available. James is survived by his wife of 53 years, Karen Zambin, his daughters Sammy and Dana Zambin, grandchildren, and extended family. The statement added, "Mark's legacy and zest for life will live on in the hearts of those who loved him, and through his timeless lyrics and melodies that have been the soundtrack of lovers for generations."